Welcome to TMI with Teryl and Martha. It's great to be back with you, and we are always excited to have you here with us. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We want you to be a part of the conversation, and we look forward to talking about this very exciting subject that we've got related to local farming.
Yes, and eating healthy. And how do you do that, right? How do you afford it? So we have invited Andrew Linker, who is here with us. That's right?
That's correct.
He's from Locally Grown, Northeast Georgia Locally Grown, which anybody listening to this in the Gainesville, Georgia area should know that name. If you don't, you are soon to find out more about it. So we brought Andrew here just to kind of talk with us a little bit about the value of what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what it means to the community.
So I wanted to start out really with you just kind of telling us a little bit about you and how you ended up, farming in Gainesville, Georgia.
Sure, yeah. So I was I used to live right down the street on Ridgewood Avenue, and I was going to the University of Georgia and finishing a degree there. They were like, get out in the community, do some good stuff, look for nonprofits, and see what that experience is like. And so I did that, and I ended up slinging food, just handing out food at the History Center, local food, seeing things I've never eaten before, being like, whoa, I didn't know that grew here. And I didn't know that could taste so good. And so when I started doing that, and then I started kind of going out to the farms and visiting them, I was like, these are some of the nicest people I've met. I love what they're doing. And then all of a sudden there was a gap in the market for lettuce, cut lettuce. And I was like, I wonder if I can do it. And I found someone that was willing to let me farm their land.
Wow.
And I gave it a try, and I've never looked back since. And I think it's the most thrilling thing that someone could do. And for me, it was just really important to kind of be the change that I wanted. So instead of telling people what to do, I was just like, I'm going to provide really good food. I come to it from the taste aspect, health aspect, and tasting fresh food, carrots, and some of these things blew my mind. I wanted everyone that's how I got into it.
It is a great opportunity because I have always been one to eat healthy. Being in the personal training field, I love to tell people to eat healthy. Do I do it all the time? 80% of the time, yes. 100% of the time, no. But basically, when I heard about them, I thought, what a great opportunity. I mean, it's good to be able to go to a farmer's market and go from booth to booth to booth to see people. But so often in the world today, everybody's so busy, and it's very hard to find the time to really go to a farmer's market. And it's a lot of work, too, for the farmer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I go to in-person tailgate markets, we call them, all the time, too. But this is just a midweek opportunity, and it works for both, I think. The farmers love that you pre-order it, and they are only harvesting what they know you want. But the other thing is, like, when you go to an in-person market, even close to here, it's like you're fighting parking. You get there, you don't know who's going to be there, and then you get there and you're like, oh, I actually don't have produce this week, or they didn't have what I was expecting. So there's one element of that. This kind of is a solution to. You can see
and
it.
so we're locally grown, though, is what it's called, right? And so how you said you went to locally grown before you became a farmer. So tell us a little bit about that, about locally grown and how that came about.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. If I may just step back and just say that Locally Grown is the organization that most people know us about in the area, but that's just one of the programs of the Georgia Mountain Farmers Network. So the core principle is that we're a nonprofit providing a service out the kind of sense of wanting to make or needing to make a profit. And so we're really trying to provide this service with the goal of building community around. And so the Farmers Network not only helps create this market opportunity, but it also allows farmers, this is where I get most excited, it allows farmers to get together, learn from each other, and then we as a nonprofit help them succeed, whether that's writing grants for them, whether that's helping design and install irrigation for new farmers, county, little things like that, having potlucks, sharing meals together. But Locally Grown is being one of the programs. It came to Gainesville.
It's kind of the offshoot.
It's just one of the programs. So our three programs are farm tours, where you sign up and you go to the farms and you have this authentic experience at the farm, meeting the farmer. And that complements the Locally Grown market, where you're not seeing the farmer.
Right.
And then the Farm Resource Center is the missing piece where it helps new farmers get in markets, grow better food, kind of that trifecta. How do we build a resilient local?
So I looked at locally grown for a minute before we came on, and it's great that you can see the different things that you can buy. And I'm going to take issue with you just for a second about saying 80% good food and then bad food, because I know you're talking about breads and things like that, but they're not bad foods.
No,
you know what I mean?
I'm talking about cake and pie and ice cream.
Okay. Then I won't take you too much to task.
No,
but it's just that
I love bread.
You know,
I love sourdough bread.
I do think we have to get away from this good food and bad food.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe how you prepare the food, as we've learned, is the problem. But I think that too many people spend their lives worrying about good food and bad food. And, you need a balance. You need a balance.
Crazy.
Yeah, it does.
The best advice I heard was don't focus so much on cutting out. It's just increasing the good stuff.
Yes.
Right. And I'm not a health professional, so I don't know that's true, but that's what I kind of try to live by.
Well, and I like color. Okay. Yeah. So I try to look for color. My husband doesn't understand that. I mean, he doesn't understand why he's very much, his mom cooked very basic.
Meat
and
potatoes.
He loves, what he likes to call white trash food. Okay. and if it's plain rice, if it's this, that. But what I try to do is like you can get the colored carrots. I love to get those. You can get the colored peppers. If I can put multiple colors into my meal, that's what I try to do. But I don't avoid bread. I mean, bread is and I know that you have some health issues around that and you don't want to eat a lot, but I don't avoid bread. So I just don't eat as much bread as I used to.
Right.
And I try to eat.
That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I want to take 80% of my world, right? And like shopping at locally grown Whole Foods, like major Whole Foods. And I want to support the farmers.
Yes.
Because this is I was so excited to hear how much more you're doing, because the farmers actually really need the support and the support of the community. There's only so much good people can do to give them the resources they need to survive, especially in this world, right?
Yeah, we don't want them to be an island unto themselves. And it's like you can support a farm and they be doing great, and then all of a sudden a life circumstance or a family matter happens and they're gone. And so the beauty of supporting organizations that keep supporting multiple farmers is that we can find ones and bring and connect you. There's so many websites that I go to. I'm like looking for farmers markets, whatever it is. They're all out of date. They don't keep up with them. It's really hard to keep track of small farmers. And so I think there's a space for organizations like us to just kind of help connect you.
And they're not always good with the marketing and the social media. I mean, that's kind of, where our producer here, Tara Lampkin over here, and I come in for the spa or for the massage therapist that we employ. And the estheticians, they are not themselves potentially very good business people, right? So they're working underneath our umbrella, which allows them to succeed because we know how to do the business portion. So it is a co-op.
Yep.
And it's how I think we work the best together is you put your strengths, your weaknesses, you surround yourself with these things, and you can move things forward that way. Where, a lot of farmers, they're busy farming. And they're not in the trends learning all that.
Well, and I think it's an interesting concept that you place the orders and then they are harvesting based on what they know they already have orders from, instead of just picking what looks good, going to the farmer's market, which I love going to a farmer's market. I mean, and it's a great thing to do, but there's probably a little more risk involved in that, right?
Definitely. They are trying to guess who's going to come if it's raining or storming, and then what they think people are going to buy most of. And as a farmer myself, it's like, okay, I mean, I know my radishes are tasting the best, but I know people love the lettuce better. And so you're trying to estimate or guess what people are going to buy. This takes that out of there. It prevents food waste. It gets you what you want without you wasting it, hopefully, too. There's a lot of benefit of that. And the best part, or there's many good parts, but the farmers come early in the afternoon. They just drop off. They get interaction with each other, which I feel is team building.
That's great, yeah.
And then they get to go back to their farm, and they have the sigh of relief. Like, I don't have to set up for 4 hours. I don't have to deal with
Right.
people, and it's just kind of draining.
I don't have to deal with people. I like that one.
I like plants.
Because I have had a theory about farmers. They don't like people that much.
You would think that, it's because they had to get up at 4 a.m. and dry, they had to harvest it all the day before, and it's all fresh and fragile, but just sitting there for hours. And so this is just one more way. It's the way I like to, you please support every way that you can, local farmers, just one more way. And it's year round. And so what we're hoping is that it builds a habit around supporting. So, 50 weeks out of the year.
We have been talking, all the time about everything going on here locally, trying to help people with functional medicine, anything you can think of. But like we've talked multiple times, the root is the eating. What you put in your mouth, what you put in your body. What is it Lynn says? If everybody would just eat right.
Quit drinking, smoking, and stop and drinking, smoking, and eating right, he'd have nothing to do.
And he's a doctor, right? So out of the mouth of a doctor.
It's so true. And what I'll add to that, what I've seen and what I feel is unique about myself is I'm okay in the kitchen failing and making mistakes and cooking.
Right.
In today's world, it's so hard to find the time and the curiosity and the desire to want to cook a meal. Me having kind of an Italian root, it's like I want nothing more to crack a bottle of wine and just spend 2 hours cooking together with family or something like that, friends and family. And so I think we're losing that, but it's starting to come back.
Yeah.
I think people are knowing that we want whole food, but we have a lot to learn and pass down as far as how to cook and be okay in the kitchen, how to save money cooking.
That's a big one.
I was
cooking whole foods. You don't want to make a mistake because you've just paid a lot of money for that.
Right.
Harvest, so you really want to do it justice when you're cooking.
But I don't see how you can make a mistake, because my view, when I love fresh vegetables, and I think the best way to do them is chop them up, put them on a pan, a little bit of salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of olive oil, and roast them. To me, that is like, especially fresh vegetables, and not. Now, if I've got things maybe that aren't that fresh, or I'm doing in my kitchen where I'm trying to use up stuff that's about to go bad, we all do that, right? I'll make a soup, or I'll make a chili, or I'll do something where it's not quite as important that you have, like, they're still good,
right?
You know what I mean? But they're not maybe the freshest as they were. So you want to make sure you don't waste anything. So I get that. I'm really making a joke that you can't. I've made plenty of bad meals, but for me, I love taking a variety of vegetables, putting them on a tray, a little salt and pepper and a little bit of oil, and roasting them. That is like the best thing in the world for me.
Yeah.
And a great piece of bread with it.
Yes.
Eat your bread.
That's
you
right.
need to get some of the rosemary and garlic sourdough.
Yeah.
So a good
that
thing,
is amazing.
One thing I'm really proud about is, like, say that baker that you just bought that bread from, Cleo's right here in Gainesville. She kind of came out of nowhere, just like, I want to bake. And I'm like, you should.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
But we took it one
cheerleading. Do it.
I was like, oh, I'll help you. And then I connected her with a local organic wheat farm that she would have had no idea is right down the street. And she decided to run with that and created her business focusing on the fact that she's supporting that local farm and then clean wheat.
Now, how does the government get involved when you want to start doing something like that and you have a kitchen that you're baking things that you're going to sell?
It's interesting you bring that up, because
that's a big deal.
That's why I'm here.
I don't know all the rules and regulations. The way we operate is we put that onus on the producer.
Right.
So we tell them, you should follow all rules.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah.
But for example, I do know that something has shifted with cottage food laws. And so it used to be
cottage food.
A license.
Yes.
And so now they've kind of gone back. They reverted.
It has to be to a certain size. Once you get past a certain size, then you have to follow more rules.
Yeah, and it has to do with the safety of foods. And so breads and jams are very safe.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you can sell those types of things without going to a commercial.
Got it.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the premise. Is if it's in a gray area of pH or like acidity or things that can go towards more food safety, then definitely need to be producing what they call a co-packer and a labeling and getting that registered. But things like jams and breads, some are able to bake from their home kitchen and offer it.
Yeah,
Very
and
cool.
that's good for anybody else out there listening to this that is interested in doing what Andrew's done. Here they just look into all those things. But I will say I cooked the meal. I went Wednesday, picked up my box, and it was like Christmas. I get it into the house and I put it on the counter because from when I ordered, I think was Saturday to Wednesday, I'd forgotten really what I'd ordered. A lot had happened between then and then. So I'm pulling out the food and I had no idea what I was going to do for dinner. And I'm like, chicken sausages. I had like bell peppers, but they were dehydrated bell peppers. And I threw that in the pan and I cooked the chicken sausages. And then I said, kale, some thyme. I felt like the Swedish chef. Just throwing all this stuff in the pan. And my husband comes in and he's like, my God, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm cooking. It's dinner. Came out of that box over there.
That was great.
So is kale still a big thing?
Such a good meal.
Are you asking me from like a health standpoint or like
I mean,
a farmer?
is it still like one of the things
Is
that
it a
everybody wants to
trend, or
grow?
is
Is it still a trend?
I think we're past kale on the trend.
So it's
but-
funny. I when I worked for Senator Perdue, I got to go down to Lewis Farms, down in South Georgia, which is a huge vegetable farm. Yeah. If you haven't been there, you should go just because it's amazing.
It's a big farm.
It's a huge farm. I mean, like hundreds of acres of each thing. Yeah. And they were in that. This was 10 years ago, so they had just converted like 400 acres over to kale. Because all those bag salads you see in Publix, they're Taylor Farms. That's where they come from, Georgia.
Okay.
They come from Georgia.
Yeah.
And so it was so funny because they gave me a box, coming out, and I had a zucchini and all the things and some kale in there. And my husband was like, there's this very funny joke that Jim Gaffigan tells about how the problem with kale is that they tell you for it to taste good, you got to chop it up and then season it and then dry it out and then do all this stuff. Yeah. And it really still tastes terrible. You need to just bury it. And so it does seem like it's a trend that's kind of passed. I'm not hearing as much about kale as I used to.
Yeah, I think the new vegetable, this is what I'm going to take from social media, is going to be cabbage this year.
Cabbage.
Okay, cool.
Wow.
So get ready for it.
Because they're different kind of cabbages, right?
Get ready for the
Not
cabbage.
only that, there's just so many ways to prepare it.
Yeah.
And, we just have to, my opinion is that every whole food has its special awesomeness to it. And we're hearing little bits, this is so great, and this gets you this and that. I'm like, that's amazing. I want to eat that now. But if you just go through all the whole foods, there's going to be something that you're.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And that's why, I do eat bread. I just don't keep bread in my house typically, except for the sourdough loaf.
Yeah.
But I don't keep it in the house because I love it that much.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I was just telling Andrew that luckily there was a brioche that didn't come in. And I told him, I said, that was probably God, because I'm just getting my labs back in. And it's like, your glucose is high. You're like insulin resistant.
It's so funny. There's this very sweet little nurse practitioner that's training with my husband right now at his day job. And she thinks she comes from a culture of bringing gifts every week. It's like thing. And so like, I've got this stacked up chocolate on my counter because she came today, didn't she? Because she brings him these bags full of which I would normally just like. I love chocolate. I mean, chocolate is something I need very
hope everybody
clearly,
loves
but it's like so much I can't finish it, and so I'm got to figure out a way to give it away. I mean, or something, because it's very sweet that and he said, please, you don't need to. I mean, this is my job to train you, I mean, oh no, we've got the whole thing. And so he said, we're going to take some to the grandkids on Saturday. So it'll be.
But what you'll see, what I love too about what you're doing is you're taking artisans and bringing them in as well. And so I was looking, as a spa owner, we are constantly shopping for really neat, eclectic things that are in our boutique that you can't find in other places. So some of the soaps, Martha, the handmade soaps look amazing.
Yeah. So on that note, like I'm trying to focus on local agriculture. So if someone applies and be like, I sell soaps, I'm like, well, right now we have honey that are taking comb and honey from their hives and incorporating it into soap. And then we have goat milk producers that are making their soaps. And so we don't have room for just anyone making soaps.
Right.
It's got to be tied to a local.
Right.
You know, we're just trying to
You're
focus.
you're
on
vetting them all to make sure.
And goat milk soap is amazing, and so is all the
And
honey
the beef
candles.
tallow cream. I bought some of the beef tallow. I bought beef tallow lotion. I mean, it's like a cream that I'm loving. And I also bought some medicinals. So they have medicinals on there. Here I do. You know, we have energetics and we have this natural pharmacy, but I'm always excited to see what other herbalists or what are they doing, you know, especially the local people locally. So I bought a healing balm that I just, you know, it said it had all this cool stuff in it. So I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that was probably from Summer.
Okay.
She's ready in basil, and she's growing the own herbs that she's putting in those balms.
And then put this on my whole face.
The electuary, they're supporting local beekeepers and buying their honey and then mixing.
That's amazing. It's so amazing.
It's a great community. And once, you know, we have this term every Friday, we send out an email. It's like, good evening, locavore. The locavores is kind of, you know, what I think of it as. And there's not very many, like say a farmer's market is going to host a farmer's market. If it's hosted by the city, they really can't say, you know, we won't allow conventional farmers or natural farmers.
They can't exclude.
Right. And so we we are able to do that. And so the market, I feel, is one great thing about it is focus on the chemical-free produce and the local. They need to be within 80 miles.
That's so good. So you're doing the hard work of the vetting for the people that are shopping online.
I go out to each
what
farm.
do you see as your goal here? You know, I mean, it seems like you're in a lot of different places, but what do you see? Like if you're looking ahead 5 years, where would you like to see it?
I love when the supply and the demand kind of meet happily. And I don't feel we're there yet here. Like I've lived in a lot of cities and across the nation and done some traveling, and I love going to farmers markets.
Yes.
And I see how robust they can be, even if you could just go down to Atlanta. And I'm not saying we need to duplicate that at all, but I want people, when they're looking for something, they can find it really easy.
Mm-hmm.
If you want something very specific, I want you to have the choice to have it look if it grows, if it's
if
feasible.
it can be grown here.
And so I think that we're not quite there. And when I talk about like food system resiliency, I just mean that like if you can always have access to.
Because it's funny how you said about you've been to some other farmers markets. And of course, I have girlfriends that live near the one in Decatur.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you walk in, it doesn't feel like a farmer's market. It feels like a mall, okay?
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying it's bad,
right?
You know,
it's
because you can do all different kinds of food and you can do all that, but it's not really what you think about fruits and vegetables, hometown in a farmer's market.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand how it developed that way because they had a lot of different cultures coming in, a lot of different people, and it's a huge area, right? And people didn't want to go all the way down to the airport. My parents and I and my family, what we would do is we went down. The only farmers market was at the airport, and so it's south of the airport.
I know exactly.
You know where I'm
you're
talking about, and so that's where we would go a couple of times a month. You know, to buy things that we needed. We would go down to the farmer's market that was the big farmer's market, the Georgia farmer's market.
The Georgia farmer's
market. Which I think
market.
it's still there. I think it's still there.
I think so.
It was funny, a number of years ago, I was working with Gary Black, who was the ag commissioner at the time, and they had a big cat problem down there. And a certain amount of cats are good, you know, in farming area, but they had like a big cat problem, and they had to figure out, you know, how, because it was almost like there were places in the farmer's market that looked like the ground was moving, but it was just because there were so many cats that they had, you know, and they couldn't scare them all away. But it was another problem. It was another.
And you were talking earlier, which I find is very common, is that people that had big gardens and they love to grow food.
Right.
And then they're like, well, that was fun. And you know, they're traveling or they just don't have, they just know how hard it is. It's hard to keep up with.
Yes.
And so they love it because they know what real food is.
Yeah.
They can spot it on a dime. And then you have these other new, younger, whatever you want to call it, that they just know grocery store food. Right. And there is an educational process and a journey of switching to local.
Really is. Like you know, I have found that the palates of a lot of people have actually just kind of dulled.
We do not know what real chicken tastes like.
No, they can't. You know, I've gotten to the point now just from taking a lot of the foods out of my home as far as the packaged processed foods. And I honestly don't even eat out that much, you know. Damn the DoorDash. But other than that, no, I don't. I try not to eat out as much. Yeah. But with that, the flavor in my mouth from when I'm eating fresh whole foods chicken raised on a local farm, steaks and ground beef that are coming from
it
a
sounds
farm
like
right
we
up the
need-
street.
Because we don't really have a farm to table
I
restaurant
was just
here.
thinking that.
And they tried a few years ago with that place
Yeah.
called Harvest. Remember, that was kind of in the
I remember. It was
And-
over off of Noda.
Yes.
Okay.
And they had a great brunch there, and they did some other, but they weren't able to kind of keep. Well, COVID came and other things
Yes.
happened.
It was a bad time.
It was a bad time,
And it's
but
hard.
it would be nice to have like a farm to table type of restaurant.
Some farms that I know that are Lula. There's one in the Lula Red Barn or something like that where they do like monthly a farm to table event in their barn.
Yeah.
Where you can go eat and have a nice meal at their barn. But yeah, it is hard to do. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be number one great if we could if we could have that happen here?
Yeah.
Where those actual farmers and you could help provide the ongoing source of menu, for the restaurateur.
It takes a really talented chef.
Talented chef and
it
someone
takes-
with patience
Yep.
too.
And then a crowd who understands that their costs are going to be slightly
More.
elevated
Yeah.
for supporting local farmers. And it's just because we're not used to the true costs in the grocery store. And then even if there's so many layers to that, which I'm sure y'all talk about, but maybe 12-15% of the grocery store dollar is going towards the farmer. And so,
Absolutely.
but yeah, finding chefs who can do that, I think and I think there are some that are trying to the best they can, and I'd love to connect them.
Oh, anybody out there that wants to do a farm to table restaurant, doesn't have to be big. It can be a nice small little, make it exclusive. Call us. We'll get you, or call Andrew. We're going to give out his information. So that's a very important.
And you came to the one we hosted. We hosted a farm to table
did.
dinner, and it took so much work, and it was a blast.
It was so
because
good.
I think we got it to like 90, 95%
You had a lot of people.
local food, and we got Tim and Tina to do it from Two Dogs.
Two
Oh,
Dogs.
wow,
And,
yeah.
it was a lot of
And
fun.
it was in an old chicken facility on somebody's land.
Oh, wow.
She is one of our employees, one of our independent contractors. It was her home, her farm,
Nice.
and Kim's.
Yeah.
And
That's right. She's now at the
yeah,
spa.
yeah. So she had their coop, set up, and it was just absolutely the most fantastic experience. And the food was just there was no talking. Once everybody sat down to eat, there was very little talking because people were just really, it's almost like a spiritual experience, a very meditative and appreciative time where we had the food. And that's all due to the hard efforts of what you're doing and the farmers. And, one of the things I thought while we were talking, the use of technology today is very helpful. And that's why Martha and I are doing this podcast, so that we can get information out to everybody as to why these things are so good to have in your communities. But I was thinking about how nice would it be, as I was cooking the other night, how nice would it be to have little YouTube segments on your site that where you were using different, cooking different whole foods, where somebody's willing to do that and kind of do a little mini instruction on cooking some of these vegetables.
Just talking to a customer about that. They have a great kitchen right here in Gainesville, and they have kids. And I was like, what if we just sat around the kitchen counter, tried something we've never tried before, and be like, this would be good with that. And this is what it looks like. Because he bought a winter melon, and it's the most bizarre thing. He had never cooked with it before, and he didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And so that was an interesting experience. But like, it would be so cool
Wouldn't
to do
it?
that. And I hope we can even take it further and just kind of provide recipes.
I love that. I love that idea. I would have used that.
Right.
Because I still have a few things in my fridge. I'm
Right.
like, what am I going to do with this? Because I am not a sophisticated chef. My husband loves my food, no less. But
Right.
I've just never been one to do a lot of cooking. It's, I'm not, I get joy from all my animals and being with the animals and, talking to people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I
But,
mean,
I
since
don't-
I haven't
I don't-
had to cook every night for kids,
Right.
which I had to cook every night for kids, we cook once or twice a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then eat leftovers the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
That's a skill in itself. Is
yeah.
that talking about cooking
Pouring
meals
it out.
so
Yeah.
that you have some for later, and you can
Yes.
transform that meal into a little exciting.
Yeah.
as it
Little
goes.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think it's a challenge in the busy world that we live in about cooking and that sort of thing. But I do think you know the more fresh vegetables and fruits and things like that you can get into it, the better off you are. And that's hopefully what they're going to do from locally grown.
We hope so.
Yeah.
We hope people support more farmers.
Now, when it comes to the farm tours, what do people need to do? Like, what are the steps on the website that people need to take to actually go see these local farmers and go on these farm tours?
Sure. We try to do Georgia Mountain Farm tours twice a year.
Okay.
Usually before the farmers markets start going so that the farmer has in that they can give. But I think we just confirmed our spring farm tour won't be until May 23rd on a Saturday.
Okay.
And that'll be at an organic herb farm with a workshop on how to incorporate organic amendments into home garden. So that'll be our next one. And then we'll try to do one in the fall. And I don't know where that'll be yet. We just usually kind of jump around the region and get you connected with all of them.
That's exciting. That's really exciting. And so I know you said where you wanted to be, you want to keep connecting. It sounds like you just have such an open mind, and whenever something comes to you, you figure out how you make it work. That's what it sounds like. And then also you've got to be able to say to people like you did the soap person that, hey, we've already got this and this, and so we don't need this. And that's probably got to be difficult, to do that. So,
We're just kind of always raising the bar.
Yeah. You're always adding to it. How did the History Center get involved? Because it sounds like that predated you to some degree.
I was involved with when we first moved down. So it was originally the system started in Clarksville and Clayton up north on 365. And that was between a farmer and someone just coming out of ag school, and they realized it was a need. And then we did get a grant, which we hired a local marketing group, which is why everyone knows of Locally Grown. So Forum Speaks helped market, do our marketing.
I think I met that person. I think I was sitting
Dubnik
next
was
to
involved, and a bunch of people on that Forum Speaks team. They did a great job. And so we just partnered with the History Center because it was a sheltered, kind of nice, safe area where you can just pull through. And we just set up a couple shelves and hand it to you, and then
so easy, Martha.
That's great.
So easy.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I love it. And the fact that I pulled in behind my daughter and my son-in-law and my grandchild was even greater. I thought, here we go. We've got, multiple generations getting involved with, engaging with you and getting Whole Foods. I'd love to I don't know what we need to do. Maybe we could do an event at the spa where we do like a little party with raise some money for your group. We can have some appetizers and some fun things, because in the spring and summer, that front porch at the spa on Green Street is an amazing place for a party. And maybe we could do something fun together to raise some money to throw into the 501(c) to help get the information out even more so. And let everybody try some of the food.
What is the biggest challenge you think? So I mentioned to you when we were talking on the porch about I know through the public schools, there's what's called CTAE, which is Career Technology, Agriculture, and Career Technology, Agriculture Education. And we have a farm up on North Hall where they teach kids how to be farmers.
Yes, they're doing great with that.
But how do you think you need to be able to open up these horizons of farming? Because you didn't start out you went a different path and it just kind of came to you. But there's a lot of opportunities there. I mean, I know we've talked with Senator Drew Eccles, who owns J. Moore Farms, and his, he's second or third generation. And I'm pretty sure Chloe's going to be the next generation to take that over.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they figured out a way to do agritourism, and, they do a lot of the fresh foods there, but they also have events there, and they do all that kind of stuff. So how do you see that growing? And being able to kind of introduce farming as a way to make a living for the next generation, for lack of a better
that's a
word.
Great question.
It is a great question, and I think it's a journey. And I think just like we might be on a health journey, we're going to be on a farming journey. And so I think just understanding that journey and being patient, and then just investing. Do you value local, clean food? Find who you can help invest into, and then support them through their journey. And so, having a strong business background is really important. And y'all have talked to Phil, and he can bring that to his business.
Absolutely.
But maybe he was lacking in something else that another farmer could help him learn. And so I think the generational thing is a really complicated question. And I think about this all the time, is that if you don't have 4 generations of farming experience, family, and land, how do you get it?
Right. It's not in your blood, so to speak.
Well, and just land access is a
Yeah.
huge barrier for a small farmer who is interested. You'd
Well,
be
and I mean,
amazed.
in a lot of, we love traveling to the UK, and in the UK, they have a lot of these community plots. It's not necessarily community farms, but because they're so densely populated,
Right.
they have these community areas where people can grow and work together, even though they may not have a patch of land of their own.
Right.
They also are very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very, they share very much the access to the farms.
Yep.
You know, you can hike through them, you can do all the, but the rule is, if you open a gate, you close a gate. If you do this, if you're going through somebody else's land, and we're very different.
England.
We're very different in America about that. We put fences up, and we don't want to.
You can't walk through my
because
property.
we have a lot more land. We have a lot more land that we can be that way about. So I think we've got to think about that. I think there's a couple of ways to approach this. That in a place like Gainesville, which is like exurban, I would call it. It's a city, whatever. You might have a place where you'd have patches that people could be a part of, a block of land
That's not
where
a bad
people
idea.
could be a part of that. And then as you get up to Clayton or up to other areas, then you can maybe have a small farm.
Exactly.
You know, I'm lucky enough to live in a place in Hall County where my husband and I have 4 acres, but on either side of us are people that have 26 and 17, and in front of us is 8. So we have like about 50 acres for 4 families. And, you know, people do different levels of what they're growing on their property, and they're not farmers per se, but they are doing something related to that. And so it probably depends on where you are, right? What you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing is we've seen urban farming spike up in interest in actual funding. And then there's just so many opportunities. Like there's a pathway for someone who owns land to let a young beginning farmer farm their land.
Wow.
And that is really exciting. I think that it's really helpful to work with someone like us to talk about contracts and what that actually looks like
What it
before
looks
you
like.
get
Legally
into
set it up. Right.
Yes, because there's just that partnership is really tricky. Someone thinks they know what they're getting into with letting a farmer on, and then it turns out a little bit different.
Right.
So just kind of talking through that with someone is really important. But land access, having someone farm your land to know if it's right for them. Incubator farms is another one. Say a big farm was able to let a beginning farmer kind of have their autonomy on a little piece, and until they could afford to buy their.
I hope do you find that this is a lot of talk going on within leadership of the communities and with yourself, where we can have think tanks on these ideas? I mean, there's a lot of people I know that love farming, that will love to have their vegetable gardens, but they don't actually eat a lot of vegetables. So I get the benefit of some of those too. Just because they enjoy.
Well, you always have more than you need.
Right.
we did a garden for like 20 years, and in that peak period in July, when everything's coming in, you have. I mean, and there's only so much, you know, pickled zucchini bread, fried zucchini, you know, all the things that you could do. But I think that's just part of it. You know, part of figuring it out for sure. My son's wife's family has a horse farm in Lexington, Kentucky, and they have multiple acres that they rent out to somebody that grows sunflowers, and then another person that does some vegetable farming. And they do that because that's a way to keep the land, kind of turning the land, and that it's not just about necessarily the horses. So it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and 2 farms come to mind of just really exciting, like what is the future is when the younger generation ends up coming back to a farm that they had no interest. They didn't think they would be there. Maybe their father or someone gets sick and it brings them back to the farm.
Right.
Or maybe that was just the land opportunity. They were like, maybe that's not a bad idea. And so 2 farmers in Hall County come to mind where that's actually happening. And that's really exciting because
exciting.
I want to keep the farms farms.
Yeah, because it's hard.
Keep them in the family.
You
keep
mentioned
them moving.
Well, and it's hard to turn down that money you get if you sell the land and you build a subdivision.
Well,
I mean, come on, that's just, you know,
and
they
that's
pay Paradise and put up a parking lot
too in many cases.
But what I'm seeing is farming is so thrilling and kind of exciting right now, and everyone's kind of into it. And so the one farmer that comes to mind, he's got a full-time job at a corporate office. But
yeah.
he just can't wait to get off. He's going on the tractor
home.
as soon as he goes, and he's
Yeah.
building this farm and getting, composting and bringing people to
It's
it.
enhancing his life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
And,
that quality of life that he wants.
Why we're doing wellness shows.
And he can take care of his family. He wants to quit his job now, but he had that security of like making the money, and now he can invest it back in the farm.
And honestly, that's a lot. That, Phil Bonelli, who is one of our guests on our show and one of our past episodes, basically he did the same thing.
Yeah.
And he's,
well, I think he's first generation. So I don't, no, his parents did. I think they did have a.
But, it's amazing.
Tell people again, if people want to get involved, how they can do that.
Sure. Yeah. So the Georgia Mountain Farmers Network is gmfn.org, and they can sign up for an email to find out when the next farm tour is. If you place an order through the locally grown market at northeastgeorgia.locallygrown.net, we'll also get on our email to get caught up with anything that we're doing. And we're on Facebook at GA Farmers Network. And
and we can put all that in our
notes
on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And thank you,
make
Andrew,
sure
for being with us.
Everybody learns about what you're doing. This is exciting.
Yes. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's been great.
Thanks for having us.
So, as everybody knows, we are ending our show today with Andrew Linker of what? Tell us the bigger name.
Yeah, sorry. The nonprofit is Georgia Mountains Farmers Network.
Yes. So please look into that and do your best to find, if you're local here, find this website, go in there, order a box, go pick up some food, enjoy eating and tasting the local foods from around this area. The farmers put their love and their heart and their sweat and their soul into it. And it just tastes so good. So please, please, please like and subscribe. Share with your friends and family. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. There is nothing better than home-cooked food that's real whole foods. And you know that Martha and I love sharing these shows with you because your wellness deserves a little oversharing.